So, you want to give autocross a try, but you don't know where to start. Maybe you aren't sure what you do or don't need to bring to your first event. Maybe you think you need to buy a certain car or certain parts to be able to compete. Maybe you've read the search terms on screen and went, hey, that's me. Something along those lines gets asked on internet forums, groups, or at in person events at least a few times a week. Maybe you just aren't sure what costs you need to plan for during a season. Today on Cars and Cones, we're going to take a look at what you need for your first event, why consumables matter and how they factor into car choice, or if you even need a car. The first and ultimately the most important thing we want to look at is the safety side of things. While the exact requirements may vary depending on the organization running the event, you will be required to wear a helmet anytime you are driving on course. Most every organization has loaner helmets available. Helmet regulations are updated periodically, and helmets will age out as they either reach a predetermined age from the date of manufacture or as the rating on them phases out, as is the case with the Snell rating system. This is one of those times when reaching out to the organization running the event is a good idea prior to purchasing a helmet. Not only will they be able to tell you which types they accept, they can also tell you if there are any limits to what you can use for a given car. For example, while the region I run in allows the ECE R2205 and '06 helmets, they are not allowed in any vehicle with a roll cage installed. Due to this, other groups may not allow them at all. Assuming your group allows them, they can be an easy way to find an affordable helmet. The important thing with these helmets is to pull the liner out before you purchase one to make sure it has a date of manufacture tag inside of it and that it is not expired. These helmets are allowed to be used for 10 years from when they were first built. With these helmets, sometimes the labeling can be a little bit convoluted as well. A helmet may have multiple safety rating markings on it if it conforms to all of those ratings. While most times a manufacturer will only list the highest level they conform to, you may see a helmet with both an ECE and a DOT logo on it. While these would be okay to use, a helmet with just a DOT rating is not accepted in any organization in North America. As one group put it, the DOT standard is best looked at as one step above a well padded baseball cap in the eyes of most motorsport organizations. Once you have a helmet sorted out, there are a few other items you probably want and a few things you need to do. Having a checklist and actively using it is a great way to make sure you are 100% good to go. You'll want to bring a lunch, plenty of water, sunscreen, and whatever clothing is appropriate for the weather at a minimum. You'll also need to remove any loose items as well as the floor mats from inside the vehicle, remove any hubcaps or wheel trim rings, and make sure the battery is tied down so it isn't just flopping around. If you have access to a torque wrench, check that all your lug nuts are tight. If you don't, most garages will torque your wheels for you for free. It only takes them a few minutes, so as long as they're available, they can usually send someone right out to do it. On top of these basics, you may also want to include a couple other things. My current kit consists of the following: my ECE R2206 helmet that I've personalized a bit with a few stickers like the ones from my car club. While many companies recommend not painting the helmet, most stickers should be completely fine to apply. This is an easy place you can have a bit of fun with making it your own. The bonus is you get somewhere to put all the stickers you get from buying parts. A cooler full of water, snacks, and something for lunch. You won't have access to refrigeration or have a way to heat up food most likely, So, having a way to keep things cold and having food that's ready to eat is important. You can also keep your sunscreen in here so that it doesn't get super runny. A hoodie or a light jacket, a hat, and a pair of sunglasses. Even if the weather's supposed to be nice and warm, having something to cover up if it rains or for cool mornings is never a bad thing. You'll also want something to keep the sun or rain out of your face while it's your turn to work the course. Glass cleaner and a towel. Clean glass means you can see what's ahead of you. The middle of a run is the last place you want to be trying to figure out if what you're looking at is a cone or just the remains of a bug. Waffle weave drying towels are great as they not only absorb the glass cleaner to minimize streaking, but they have enough texture to scrub away any dirt on the windows. Just make sure you don't use them for drying your car afterwards. Paper towels or shop towels. You never know when you might need to check your oil, clean up a spill, or just need a napkin. A roll will last you many events, and as a bonus, if you are somewhere with a lot of deer flies or other biting insects, soaking a towel in bug spray and just tucking it into the back of a hat can help ward them off and maybe save your neck a couple bites. A torque wrench and the correct socket for your lug nuts. Being able to check that all four wheels are tight is kind of important. Even though I mentioned it earlier about checking before you go to an event, it never hurts to check again while there. A good torque wrench can be picked up for less than the entry cost for many events, and you can get a set of lug nut sockets often for $20 or less. Being able to offer tools to your fellow competitors is also an easy way to make a good first impression. An air compressor and tire pressure gauge. Assuming you aren't changing tires at the event, you'll be driving there and back on the same rubber you're running on. If you're using a normal street tire, even a performance oriented one, you'll want to run higher pressures than you would on the street to prevent rolling over onto the sidewall. An autocross focused tire will normally want to be run at a lower pressure than you would on the street. Being able to adjust tire pressures at the event makes this a non issue. This leads into the next item, an infrared thermometer. Well, not required. This is something I've decided to add to my kit this year. I already had it, so although it's not as accurate as a temperature probe, it's still a convenient way to tell if I have a hot spot on one of my tires and need to change pressure to have them heat more evenly. Up last, we have sidewalk chalk. Not only can you draw pictures while you eat, you can use it to get in the ballpark of the proper pressure to run in each tire. Start by chalking a block across the entire tread surface and just driving a few feet. Ideally, you want to see the chalk wear off evenly along the whole surface. More chalk worn off from the middle of the tire means you need to lower the pressure. More worn off from the edges means you need to raise it. Once you get in the ballpark there, you'll next want to chalk the sidewall of the tire in at least 3 to 4 places, going from the tread all the way down to the rim. You're wanting to see the chalk wore off down to the top edge of the sidewall. Depending on the tire, there's usually a small marking somewhere along the sidewall area in a few places showing where a tread wear indicator is. Having the chalk wear off to just above the top of this mark is usually a pretty good place to aim for. Raise or lower the pressure by only a few psi at a time until you get to this point. Also, keep in mind, a hot tire will have a higher pressure, so measure before and after each run until you know where you need to be. Now that we have our kit together, all that's left is finding an event, filling out any waivers or registration forms the organizer requires, and paying the entry fees. With that done, just load up everything into your car and head out for a day of fun. What's that? What if you don't have a car? Do you mean like no car at all? Or you just don't think the one you own is worth taking? Because I promise you, as long as it passes the safety requirements, it is 100% worth taking. No car at all. Do you have a family member with a car that would let you borrow it? Maybe convince them to run as well. Family bonding and all that. No? How about a friend? Also no. Are you good at making friends? If so, you could always try messaging people who go to these events and ask if they would let you drive a couple laps or at least do a few ride alongs. As long as you have a pulse, you will be able to find a way onto the course in some form. If you are determined to buy a car specifically for autocross or for a combination of autocross and track days, It's important to look at what your overall budget is for the car and events. Falling into the money trap of this nameless talking head on the internet told me to buy an E36 M3 because they really like BMW and one was for sale close to me and within my budget, but then not factoring in repair and maintenance costs cuts many people's performance driving adventures very short. Assuming you can do your own work and repairs and unexpected issues aside, with any vehicle, you have items called consumables that need to be factored into your running costs when budgeting for these events. Autocross is much easier on equipment than doing hot laps on track, so things will last a little longer, but you will still burn through everything faster than street driving. Your top consumables that you'll need to factor into your budget will be brake pads, brake rotors, tires, and oil changes. Depending on how many events you attend, the number of runs per event, how you drive, and what you drive, these may last for multiple seasons or may need to be addressed multiple times in a season. To give a bit of an idea as to what you might need to budget for, I've put together a small shopping list of consumables for both our hypothetical M3 as well as the current setup on my Sonata. Since autocross runs are short and generally don't involve high speeds, our braking needs are very different to what a track day would have. Where a track day would be best off with us selecting a true race style pad to withstand extreme heat, many of those types of pads don't really work well at lower temperatures like what you would usually experience in autocross. Of course, lower temperatures is still relative, as depending on the course and car, you're still going to see temperatures well into the multiple hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit at any given time. Another side effect of these track day style pads is due to their ability to stop very aggressively, they also have a tendency to eat rotors extremely quickly. For our purposes, we could go to a more street performance oriented pad that still has a better than average friction rating. Something like the Brembo Prime pads I have in the cart here come in at half the price of track day pads, and they have the benefit of being able to be used on the street as well as at the event itself. From my experience with them, they generally tend to come in some of the higher friction ratings available too, so they carry the stopping power from cold all the way to well above the temps you should be seeing at any autocross. Along with the pads, we also have a set of hardware for all four corners. Replacing the clips, shims, or whatever other retainers used on your car that keep the pads and everything in place not only keeps them from making noises, it can also help with even pad wear. A pad that struggles to contact the rotor evenly due to being stuck on a corroded shim or retainer will need to be replaced more frequently. Many kits also come with dust boots for the caliper slide pins. A high quality brake lube should be used when you replace these so everything moves freely, even at extreme temperatures. Moving on to the rotors, a good quality set of blank rotors will be what you want to be looking for. While you can go and spend a bunch of money on drilled, slotted, dimpled, grooved, or whatever fun things they're doing with rotors nowadays, a normal, flat disc of metal is more than enough. Many high performance driving schools use just normal, daily driver style rotors from brands like Centric on their track cars as they replace them after every few events anyway. Tossing out a $60 rotor hurts a whole lot less than tossing out a $150 rotor. We should be able to have our set last at least a few pad changes, but they are still something to keep factored into our budget. I'm also going to add, I don't really believe in having rotors turned down for any kind of performance use. Unless you can do it yourself, the cost difference isn't that extreme in most cases, and finding out you have a hairline crack in one of your rotors after paying to turn down all four just ends up costing more money when you then have to replace all four rotors. Assuming you find the crack before you put it back on the car and put it to use. Then it can get very expensive very quickly. Of course, the prices for all of this are assuming you're able to do your own work. I highly recommend taking the time to learn how to do some basic services on whatever vehicle you decide to use. Shop manuals, forums, YouTube videos, and car clubs are all good resources for learning how to do these tasks. The last item on our list here is an oil change. Buy a brand name, high quality, and well designed filter. You want something that filters well and offers as little restriction to flow as possible. I'm partial to Wix and Mobile, as those are the two best filters currently available in my area, but research what works best for your platform. I do tend to avoid the orange filter at all costs, as I've personally torn one in half trying to remove it from an engine, and various tests have shown the inner construction isn't really much better. I didn't include the price of oil here, but again, research what oil is best for how you intend to use the vehicle, as well as how much you will need. For example, when tracking our M3 or like a Subaru BRZ, it's recommended to overfill the oil level to prevent oil starvation. Our M3 generally calls for between 6.5 and 7 liters of 5W30 oil, depending on how much exactly drains out from the oil cooler lines. However, for autocross and track use, 5W40 up to 15W50 oil are generally regarded as being the best options. You will also want to change the oil more often, as the higher demand of autocross and track use will cause it to break down far quicker. Including 7 liters of 5W40 synthetic oil, you'd be in the range of between $440 and $475 to do everything here at once. For some perspective, I made a list for my setup using comparable parts. I'm not trying to suggest that my setup is better than an M3. This is more to show how cost breakdowns should be looked at and compared. Before the cost of oil, the parts are actually fairly close together price-wise. However, this also doesn't factor in how often one vehicle needs to be serviced over the other, or things like transmission and differential fluid changes and maintenance. I use 5 liters of 5W30 instead of the Hyundai called for 5W20. Myself and many others are of the belief that one of the main causes of the engine issues with these cars is due to fuel dilution with the 5W20 oil mixed with the extended change intervals the manufacturer allows. With all of the hard parts and the oil for me, I fall in the $350 to $370 range. This gap would widen by $40 or so for each oil change per season. Tires are another thing to factor in. A good set of Super 200 tires like the Bridgestone RE71s can last anywhere from a few seasons to as little as a half season or less, depending on a whole host of variables. For our BMW, running in C Street Touring, a 245 40R17 tire is legal and fits in our wheel wells without running into any rubbing issues. For my E Street Touring Sonata, a 225 45R17 is the tire to go with. These have a cost difference of a little over $60 a set. Again, not massive, but it is starting to add up now. With the tires, brakes, and one oil change done, we have now spent almost $160 more. Having said all of that, though, at the end of the day, it's still completely fine to just go out and buy the car that's going to make you happy. Don't buy something because someone on the internet tells you to, or because you think it'll instantly make you look cool. Buy whatever makes you smile and does what you want it to do. Also, that hairdresser Miata cost $1,445 for all the consumables, including tires. Hundreds less than just the tires for the two other cars. With that said, this seems like a pretty good spot to wrap up. With car season finally upon us, I'm hoping to get some equipment here in the next week or two to be able to record some driving videos. My car club has a cruise event coming up, so if things line up, look forward to a cruise video in the future. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.